All right, we just got finished locals there, and I took a deck I've actually been meaning to do really well with for a long while, and especially just because of the recent Blue Eye support there. This deck is, I think, skyrocketed to being a very decent, competitively viable deck, and I definitely think a probably cheaper alternative to a full-on Primate Blue Eyes list. And in some aspects, I think this deck might be better. But we took Buster Blader Blue Eyes, and, well, we won. So our first round was against Fiendsmith Blue-Eyes. So I think game one I ended up starting because I win the die roll there. I end up setting up combos, so I end up making up the Spirit Dragon and the Buster Lock. He can't play through it, he scoops. Game two, his hand is kind of weird, but I think he was also kind of new to the deck, so he didn't really understand how it worked. So he had Maiden, for example, but he decided to normal summon it instead of using the effect, which I found a bit odd. He ended up just getting to a point where he set 2 back row and had one spirit on the field. I was like, okay, that's not too bad. My hand was really damn good. I end up finding out that one of his sets are Imperm and the other one's D-Barrier. At some point, he ends up using Spirit Dragon, but I have Called By. So I Called By the Spirit Dragon. And I end up, he ends up D-Barrying calling Synchro anyway. So I end up just setting like Tyrant, doing some damage, and then I set up like Spheres, and then I have the Buster Trap set up, and then pass to him, and I set up Buster Lock, and he still can't play, and he scoops. So that's a 2-0 first round. Round 2 was against MALISS. Honestly, not a bad matchup. I do lose the die roll on that. I think game 1, I think the only hand trap I have was Nib. I end up nibbing him at some point. He ends up having a Bisteel anyway to extend further. And then he ends up Talents looking at my hand. And to avoid him finding out what I was on, I ended up just scooping before that. So game 2, no shifter, luckily. I end up setting up full combo, so I end up setting a Buster Trap and the Spirit. That's mostly what you're setting up anyways. He can't play because he can't even use Bisteels. That's one cool thing too with the setup. Then game 3, it was a pretty standard game. He starts, but I have Lancia, so he does not have the crossout or Called By. So he ends up just normal summoning Red, and then just passing. He gets to a point. So I end up having like a decent hand. I end up getting to a point where he Bisteels like my Maiden Engrave before I really need it. I already have Buster Whelp, so I use that to make my Spirit Dragon. I don't have enough for lethal because of his Bisteel. And there was one actually I misplayed there. I forgot to use Wishes to equip the Blue Eyes with the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate. For the targeting protection, so I had to burn my Spirit Dragon the moment I summoned it. So that was a misplay on my end. But we still ended up winning because I passed turn to him. He has like a couple Bisteels in hand, but because I set up the Buster Lock, you just can't use them. You just cannot use them. So that was a 2-1. Round 3 was against Chimera Azamina. He didn't open any Bisteels. I won the die roll. I set up full combo. He can't play through it. Game 2, his hand isn't great. I end up Veiling his only starter, and he can't progress farther. At the end of that game, he ends up showing me his hand is like, he has like LZ, he has the newer LZ, and then he has no spell traps to send with them, so it was pretty rough. And then round 4, Mermail Atlantean. This deck has been a plague for me. It's such a hard matchup. So I win the die roll. I set up my lock. He can't play through it. Game 2, he full combos my hand. I have no interactions. It's not that great. I end up getting double hand ripped by Moonlit Glacia. He sets up full combo, and he also sets up the Deep Sea Madonna to summon the Water Barrier statue from deck. My draw for turn was actually really good. I just couldn't deal with. I have nothing that can beat over Water Barrier statue, and because you don't play droplets or imperms, it's like whatever. And then game 3, he only has a. I think he does imperm something, but or he imperms my Sage, but I already drew Maiden, so I end up full comboing anyway. He can't play through it, and that's it. Simple 4-round local, so it's nothing too big. But yeah, so we're just going to get into the deck here and talk about it. There's some things I would definitely change about it after referencing that, but maybe I need also a bigger sample size. So in terms of your Buster Blader kind of cards, You're going to play a triple Whelp for sure. That card is, I think, going to be mandatory at 3. Because you don't... the reason why Primate is so consistent is because you also have 3 Barrel, and then you have 3 Loads as well. So that's technically 6 quote-unquote starters, or things to get you somewhere. Well, this is only 3 copies because you don't have any... Like, the Blue-Eyes cards get you to search this, so you're technically playing 9 starters in the deck. Well, 12 if you count Wishes. And then for the other Whelp, you're just playing 1 Destruction Sword. I mean, this one's probably pretty mandatory. You honestly might even be able to get away with not playing it. The reason why is because you don't want to play it into Talons or Thrust, which actually did come up in my last round against Mermail, because I ended up setting up Spirit and the Buster Lock, but I shotgun the Buster Lock when he goes Poseidra Pitch Dragoons, so he doesn't get any effects. And I just choose not to use Spirits, and I did actually have Whelp Engrave, but I chose not to equip with Buster Dragon, so I don't play into Talents. And then he shows me his hand at the end when he scoops. He has 2 Talents in hand. I have like a set Solemn Judgment as well, so the way my hand would have rolled out is I think I lost to that Talents there. So not playing into Talents is always nice, right? But yeah, I think you do play it. You can also hard normal summon it to link off into Spirit, but you know, justifiable. And then kind of like to like Garnets, it's like you have Buster Blader, Destruction Swordsman, and then you have the OG Buster Blader. You honestly probably could get away without playing the OG Buster Blader. Technically, there are some, like in the cases that you happen to hard draw one of them, the Link 2 monster can special at least the OG from hand and do maybe something with that. And like, because if you happen to hard draw this as well, I mean, worst case scenario, you'd hard draw both of these, right? You can special this from hand, equip this from hand, and that's technically a lock from the extra deck. But you really don't want to be hard drawing these. There was one game I did actually hard draw both of these. Luckily, it was against it was a game that I already scooped. It was against MALISS, I think there it was. You probably don't need to play the OG one. You can probably just play 2 of this guy, or you can really gamble and just play 1. But I think for this fact, you kind of have to play 2 just to avoid it. And then you're just going to play 1 of each trap, 1 Prologue, 1 Destruction Sword Memories. The thing about the deck beforehand is that you used to have to play this at like 2, because hard drawing this literally killed the whole engine. Well, now it's not bad, because you have Wishes, which starts with the discard. So you just discard this, and it gets to grave anyway. So you can actually afford to play this at 1 now. You don't have to play it at more. And if you hard draw it, it doesn't feel like it's a dead card. Prologue is cool. The one thing is, too, is if you happen to hard open Prologue, you don't have to actually go for the Whelp line, and you can go for the double Sage line and set up double Spirit Dragon instead, while also just setting up the Buster Lock. So, I mean, there are scenarios where you can maybe argue maybe play more copies of this, but you want stuff that baits a bit more, and something that actually searches is what you want. But in terms of your Buster engine, this is it. This is the Buster Dragon engine. So technically, none of it is that bad. So Memories is still pretty bad to draw. These 2 are pretty bad to draw. Prologue is okay. This one's like not ideal, and this one's obviously the one you want to. But it felt good. I only bricked on it once. And again, it was in a game I lost anyway. So now for more of the Blue-Eyes stuff. Probably nothing too unique here, I would say. So we have 3 Sage, obviously the best starter. It just baits so much. Didn't get to use its second effect. Maybe it'll come up once in a blue moon, but you know, it's kind of cool that it does have that. So you get 3 Sage. You're gonna have 3 Maiden of White for sure. Like these are going to be like your main starters. Both of these are, you always want to see these in your hand. Anytime you do, it's amazing. And if you already see this, well, you already have Sage. It's like you can either go for your Whelp, or you can go for like just search Effect Veiler or something like that. Keep it simple. And then for the other Blue-Eyes monsters that you're playing 1 Jet Dragon. It comes up in some scenarios. I often side it out when I'm going second because I just don't want to draw it. But in terms of like if you happen to hard draw it or something like that, it's like what you discard off Wishes. It's not too bad. It sets up like a weird battle interruption. It's often what I end up summoning from Seals, because you don't really have like a lot of other great targets. So you're either just summoning like obviously OG Blue-Eyes, or you're summoning Jet Dragon. That's like probably Jet Dragon's probably the one I summon the most off of Seals if I use it. I thought about playing some Bestials. I'm not playing any Bestials in this deck. I find you just don't have the excess lighter darks that you would want. People might argue with me on that, but I feel like I'd want to keep these things engraved, you know? And that's all we're playing for Blue-Eyes monsters. You know, it's pretty simple, nothing crazy. I have debated about playing stuff like Master, or maybe like Ancients, you know, that card could come up. But I feel like that's all you need. It's pretty consistent that way. Spell Traps, you're playing the best card in the deck. Funny enough, not a single person had Ash Blossom for me today on this card, so this card resolved every time, so take that with a grain of salt for the topping, but this card is phenomenal. It just does so much. It's so damn good. Some more just spells. Roar and Mausoleum. Mausoleum's mandatory. Roar. With this variant of the deck, because you're setting up the busters, the whelp, oftentimes you don't have the necessary resources to go into double spirit, unless you happen to hard open prologue. And because you don't have the extra consistency of like the Primite stuff with like loads and triple barrel, maxing Roar out might be like okay. Because there's like several scenarios there where you end up... Consistency of Sage is like your only starter. You normally let the impermit. If you if you happen to hard open then the Sage with the Roar, it lets you still set up Spirit in that aspect. So it's like that's not too bad in my opinion. So it might be a card I end up bumping up in this list specifically at some point, but I still have to do some more testing. And then just for the traps, you're just going to play Majesty and True Light. Not much to be said about them. Majesty, I always side out going second. But I see why you have to play it. I mean, for example, against, what was it? The Chimera Azamina player I played against. He ended up just making like a Chaos Angel of passing because he couldn't do anything else. I basically had full field. And I technically didn't have anything to out this, but I did have Majesty still in the deck there. So luckily this does out like something like a Chaos Angel, so I arguably think that it might be mandatory. I might put it in the side deck though to guarantee if I'm going first or not. I'll have to do more testing, but that is it for the Blue-Eyes portion, and the rest is just non-engine. Nothing crazy here. Triple Ash Blossom, triple Veiler, triple Nibiru, and triple Droll. These are the hand traps I decided to play. In this current format, I don't find that like stuff like Imperms and Veilers are particularly that strong. I feel like anything that can deny a body on field is probably going to be stronger than just preventing a body's effect on field. But the only reason why I'm maxing out Veilers is, I mean, like I said, if I'm playing one because it's searchable, I might as well just max it out and count towards my hand trap lineup. Ash is solid. Nib is probably one of the best removal hand traps in the game. Droll is just, it stops a lot. It's not good for like stuff like Malice, and I get certain other decks that can be a bit mediocre. And sometimes when I have drawn this, like I drew it once against Mermail, and I was like, oh, it's great, and then he just has cross out anyway, so it's whatever. But I think it's arguably all right. That is all for the hand traps. You know, they could probably change as the format develops. And final bits of non-engine, playing 2 Thrust, 1 Talents, and a Called By. The reason why I'm main decking Thrusts is for the fact that like if you happen to get like Ash Blossomed or something like that on your turn, you can still end up thrusting out for your prologue, so that's really good. And then going second obviously can get you almost anything in the deck, right? It's pretty good that way. Talents, and then Called By yourself explanatory. And that is all for the main deck. Let's go on to the extra deck here. Not, I would say, too interesting of an extra deck. It's not too crazy. So you have 1 Buster Blader. You know, this guy is probably your win con, right? What's funny is that in some scenarios there, it's like in the Blue-Eyes mirror, you don't even need to have Buster Dragon on field. Just him on field means they're kind of locked out of stuff. And, you know, it stops the Bestials. That's pretty cool. Tyrant, as another fusion, and Neo Blue-Eyes. This is the only fusions you're going to be playing. They all have their warrants. Obviously, this one you equip, so you get targeting protection on your Blue-Eyes. Tyrant came up like half of the games. It comes up a lot, actually. And that could be one argument also to play stuff like Imperm in like a simplified state, where you can, like, if you Imperm the opponent, you can crash and reset the Imperm. But primarily, you just probably reset something like a Majesty if it's simplified that way. But, you know, it's all comes down to like variants and stuff like that. So for Synchro Monsters, we're playing Crimson Dragon, you're going to play Cipher, you're going to play Blue-Eyes Ultimate Spirit. I never went into Crimson Dragon or Cipher Dragon. Like I mentioned, you just don't often have the extra material to set up a double Spirit Dragon to tag into a Crimson and Cipher. I did end up summoning this a couple times. It obviously just gets popped, but I feel like that's okay as long as you have your Buster set up. So yeah, I mean, it didn't come up there. Maybe it'll come up like at some point. But honestly, I honestly might end up deciding to put something like more generics in the side deck. One thing I've actually been considering is actually playing Azure Eyes for some scenarios. It feels like it's destruction, like it's like just 2-turn destruction protection and targeting protection seems really solid, and I really want to see if I can expand on that if it's worth it. And then nothing crazy. You're going to play Triple Spirits. It's probably the card you're going to go to in every single game, which I did. It's really good. It has so many good effects. This card is amazing. I would not be surprised if they end up if this deck does end up becoming like a really big meta powerhouse. This card would probably be the one to get like limited. I don't think it could get banned, but I definitely could see it being like limited or something like that. And then a tech card of choice. I was playing Trish for the same aspect as like you can Crimson Dragon, and then Crimson Dragon target a Spirit to Trish. Obviously that never came up, but you know, the concept was there. Lightstorm Dragon never came up. Buster Dragon, obviously you set up with the Buster Luck. Lightstorm didn't come up because again I never made I didn't go against really a lot of big back row heavy decks, and the Spirit, obviously the the Crimson Dragon didn't come up. So yeah. And then last 3 extra deck cards, you just play 3 Spirit, obviously. Protector Whelp, this card's, you know, it comes up a few times. You can dump like the Destruction Sword Whelp to get the extra deck lock, and also you're just playing Seals. It's a solid card. So that is all for the extra deck. Nothing I think too crazy other than, you know, a couple tech choices, and I think stuff that could change. Side deck, it's I don't think going to be too crazy either. Just trying to play it safe. Play triple Lancia, just auto win versus Malice basically, and then serve versus some other decks randomly. It's just like alright. For more hand traps, just going to play triple Ghost Ogre. I was expecting to play more Blue-Eyes actually. I was like surprised I didn't run into many more. Probably because people might not have had the Primite stuff. But Ogre in theory seems really solid right now. The opponent activates True Light. You can go Ogre to stop that. That's really solid. Even Ogre in Mausoleum can be okay in some scenarios where they try to dump Blue-Eyes and stop them off the extra normal summon if they play it wrong. So yeah, I mean, in theory, Ogre seems good. It's one of those cards that I think is really good right now for the fact that it denies bodies on field. So if, for example, you're going up against something like Malice and they happen to go into like Splash Mage or something, you can Ogre the Splash Mage, and that seems really solid to me. Versus like Raziel, it's not probably that good, but in theory, it's all right. And because I was expecting to play Raziel, I had Xyz Encore in there. I didn't play against any Raziel. I didn't side this in once. None of my matchups had it matter, but I guess it was okay while it was there. I'm going to play Lightning Storm and Duster. The generic removal cards. I did not side. I sided in Duster a couple times. I never wanted to side Lightning Storm, so honestly might look at changing these out for something else. Maybe even Cosmics, but I don't even know if Cosmics are that great right now. We'll see. And then the last 3 cards in the side deck, Solemn Judgment, just when you go first. This makes it so you don't lose to stuff like Talents or Droplet, basically. Yeah, so that is it there for the deck. Overall, I think it's a really solid deck. I definitely think it's one that I'm going to try and continue playing for a little while here and try expanding on. If I do have a larger event coming up, I'll probably end up taking this deck if I can, and so I really want to try and optimize it a bit more. But overall, the deck felt really good, and definitely a probably more budget-friendly option than other Blue-Eyes variants. So definitely look at it and see what you can do with it. Alright, peace out.